Howdy nerds! We have comic books and literature to discuss this time around. This is actually a shorter section, I should say. It comes from a much longer video that I like to call The Week in Nerddom. You can find the full video over on the main channel at Generally Nerdy on YouTube or over on Rumble, Generally Nerdy. You can go check it out there as well. But since we're here, we might as well get to it. This is comic books and literature, all of the written stuff that we have that's worth talking about, I guess I should say.
All right, so now we're talking about comic books and literature. That's right, books, comic books and books. That's what that means, books. Anyway, in today's comic books and literature section, we have that big piece about the Roald Dahl situation. We're going to talk about that. There's also Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles versus Street Fighter comic coming. We got some new Buffy to talk about. There's a lot of stuff going in comics. So let's go. Let's do this. First up, we're just going to come out the gate swinging. Let's talk, probably not ever so briefly, about Roald Dahl and his this big situation that has happened over the course of the last week. All right, so Roald Dahl, for those that don't know, is the rather well-known author who wrote the book of Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. He also wrote Matilda. He also wrote The Witches. He's done a number of things. All of these books happened to be written. I didn't include that in the notes because this part I think everybody kind of knows. I'm pretty sure they happened in the 70s. Might have been the 60s. I don't really remember, but it's been a lot. They've been around for quite some time. That at least is noteworthy to keep in mind because it was a very different time when they were written. It might have even been the 50s now that I'm thinking about it, but whatever. Still, the point to take away from when they were written is that they were so long ago. It was a very different time than, current year. So, what I think a lot of people have missed about this, at least it took a bit of digging for me to find this bit of information, is that in 2021, so approximately 2 years ago, the Roald Dahl Storytelling Estate, is that what they call it is specifically? No, Roald Dahl Story Company. So the arbiters of the Roald Dahl estate is this company. In 2021, they were bought by Netflix. All right, so again, keep this in mind as well. Netflix now owns everything Roald Dahl, the estate of Roald Dahl, has access to. All right, so in 2021, for $1 billion, reportedly, they bought this. What do we know about Netflix? Well, Netflix is worried about a number of things. First off, Netflix is very worried about public perception. They're very worried about virtue signaling. They're very, very worried about making money. So I saw the article that I finally got to the bottom of this, at least this portion of it, was in, I can't even remember, it might have been the Forbes article, actually, where they specifically were trying to explain this is not because of wokeism and this is not because of precious little snowflakes. This is because of capitalism and, not exactly. So Netflix is very worried about trying to make sure their virtue is as strong as anyone and even stronger than most. And in so doing, the reason they're worried about that is because they think that is going to make them money, right? This is why we see things on Netflix like Cuties, and we see things on Netflix like Big Mouth, and we see things on Netflix not do well that should theoretically do well for other various political reasons. There are also stupid reasons why great things on Netflix don't do very well. Well, that's a whole different video. All right, so Netflix owns Roald Dahl. Roald Dahl was not a great man. He was very notably anti-Semitic, kind of racist, and a product of his time. Like I said, somewhere between the 50s and the 70s is when he wrote these books. Honestly, leaning more towards the 50s right now. Again, mostly irrelevant for the conversation. Roald Dahl was a fantastic children's author. Now, also, the stuff in these books could be viewed as cruel to a certain degree. Now, I do not take a personal issue with cruelty in literature. Matter of fact, I do not take personal issue with cruelty in general life. I think you cannot have greatness without terribleness. Like that, the two cannot exist unless they coexist. So without having something beautiful, you can't have something ugly, or vice versa. You can't have something beautiful without having something ugly. Because there's no litmus, there's no way to tell what beauty is unless you have something to juxtapose it against. So, knowing this, being a fairly intelligent man, Roald Dahl, and most authors at any given time in history, use these kinds of things to illustrate images with words. And these words have now been censored by Netflix. So apparently, I was not able to find if this is the first printing of or first reprinting, I guess I should say, of the Roald Dahl books since Netflix purchased the company. But at the very least, it is the most recent printing of all of these books. And some very strange things have been changed for these books. Very specifically, descriptors have been chopped out. And to a certain point, entire, like, almost paragraphs have been added to pad some of the language so that it doesn't hurt when you're describing a witch who eats children. You can't describe her as ugly. You can't say, oh, she's bald and has a hideous nose and wart growing off of it and 3 fingers. No, that needs to be padded because horrible people still need to be made to not be quite so horrible so that children today will associate more. It's more accessible to them. That doesn't make any sense. That's silly. We want to make horrible people look as horrible as possible for the purposes of literature so that, you can create these caricatures and it's easier to relay certain life truths, to smaller, less developed brains, right? So you have to kind of paint with these broad brushes. You have to kind of get a little bit into the icky bits so that you can make icky things bad for children, right? That's kind of how this goes. You make undesirable characteristics undesirable for a reason so that children can understand them. Nuance is not really something you want in a book that is geared for, elementary students, because they don't really understand nuance. That's once your brain starts to settle and be developed, when you start to really have an appreciation for nuance and you can better understand the world around you because you understand nuance, right? So you're not there yet as an elementary school student. And that's, I think, the point that a lot of people are trying to make. I think the only thing that really is getting missed is this Netflix level. Like, this is crazy. This is so crazy. So, all right, we were talking about the censorship. So the things that have been censored are, again, those words, but then very, very, very strange, according to some outlets, other words that have been taken out are color words. So black and white, very specifically, I know technically not colors. Black is the absence of all color and white is the presence of all color mixed together. Yes, I understand that. I went to art school to a certain degree as well. So yeah, I gotcha. Okay. But for the purposes of this discussion, we're going to refer to them as colors because the only logical thing that I could come up with for why they removed the words black and white, specifically, like they removed them when talking about inanimate objects. The cloak that is worn by one of the characters, I believe in Matilda, was referred to as a black encompassing cloak or something like that. And of the description of this cloak, the only thing that was changed was the word black. It's a cloak. It's a cloak. So when you remove this, like you're dulling the story. It's less descriptive. Why would you make something less descriptive? Again, all right. So the logical reason why I think they were trying to do these, why I think they removed these specific color words is because of skin color. They don't want to put words that could be construed as skin color in the book. Why else would they remove black and white? Why else? What other possible reason is there? That's stupid. That is absolutely insane. So yeah, Roald Dahl got censored. Now, all right, so and then one more point on this, and then we're going to move right along. And I apologize that we spent so much time on this, but it was necessary, I feel like. The second biggest takeaway from this that I think is potentially more important than the fact that it's Netflix trying to look good to woke folk. The biggest takeaway from this is pretty much universally, these changes have not been met well. Regardless of side of the aisle, I have seen most of this covered. There has been very little, I have seen some, but very little people going, yeah, that's right, you should have taken out those very descriptive words so that my child's vocabulary is smaller. Yes, I agree with this. No. Most people, regardless of social politics or personal politics or whatever politics, most people have looked at this and went, well, that was absolutely unnecessary and stupid. The conservatives, liberals, centrists, and otherwise have all said basically that same thing. Why? What good does this do to society to censor such things? Woke culture is so far around on itself, it has now started eating itself. And yeah. So nobody wanted this. Nobody likes this. Hopefully Netflix will learn from this and move forward in a much more positive way. All right, let's move on. All right, so Roald Dahl. Next, we're talking about Star Wars. We have another Star Wars series coming out. This is actually a horror Star Wars series. I'm super excited about that. It's called Tales from the Death Star. It is a horror-themed comic written by Cavan Scott, who wrote previously Tales from the Rancor Pit, Star Wars: The High Republic, etc. Also featuring artwork from Eric Powell and So Lee, Vincenzo, Riccardi, and Ingo, Roemling, and Juan, Samu all will be contributing artists as well, which is super exciting. I'm honestly very intrigued by the thought of a Star Wars horror book. Yeah, we're going to talk about it. I didn't see a release date, so I apologize. But if I do find it between, recording and editing, I will try and put it up on the screen. Those of you on the audio outlets just have to wait for the follow-up next week. But then we're moving next to Buffy the Vampire Slayer. We got a new Buffy book coming from Boom Studios. It is not in the same timeline of the reboot Buffy book that is still ongoing. This is a different timeline altogether. Well, not altogether. This is actually a book that is going to be revisiting the timeline from the series, the TV series. This book is going to be called The Lost Summer. The writer on the project is Casey Gilly, also featuring artwork by Lauren Knight and colors by Francesco Segala. Will be on sale May 3rd in comic book shops everywhere, so go check that out. That's pretty cool. The story takes place between 1 year in their high school career. I believe it's before the college stuff happened. So it's that set of characters. Spike is involved, Angel's involved, so on and so forth. Next, we're talking about Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League. The game is getting a comic book tie-in. This comic book is going to be a prequel book to the story in the game, which is pretty cool. It is going to be released on May 30th. That's all we really know about that. So moving right along to our next piece, and this is the one that I'm probably the most excited about, and that is Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles versus Street Fighter. That's right. They're doing a TMNT versus Street Fighter book, much like they did TMNT versus Batman, which was a great book. I really loved all three of those. This one is going to be released by IDW. It is going to be written by Paul Allor, who is currently writing the ongoing TMNT story. It will be art by Ariel Metal and colors by Sarah Meyer. I did not see a specific release date, though I do know it will be released in May. If you're interested, and Lord knows I am, that sounds great. Only thing in my book that could be better would be Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles versus Mortal Kombat. That's right, you guessed it. That is all we have for regular ass news. So let's talk book suggestion. That's right, books suggestion this week. Not comic books, but literature. And that is, I think, kind of obvious. Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, the original, mostly original version, not the most recent printing, but something that came out, you know, previous to 2021, let's say. Go find a copy of Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. It's a pretty quick read because it's written for elementary school kids. Go read that, have some appreciation for history and a good laugh, and understand why I was pretty disappointed with the remake movie with Johnny Depp when they didn't include the square candies that look round. You'll see what I'm talking about in the Charlie and the Chocolate Factory book when you read it, because it's great and a whole lot of fun, and that is your suggestion this week.
Once again, nerds, that was a short section that comes from a longer video on the main channel, Generally Nerdy, YouTube or Rumble. Take your pick. I'm on both. You can go find it there. You can go find all of the other news there as well, including the live episode. We do a live episode roughly once a week, every Friday evening. You can join the conversation live, or you can just leave comments here on this one or any of the other ones you find on the Clips channel. Thank you very much, nerds. We've got other news to discuss in other videos, but while we're getting out of here, don't forget that if it's generally nerdy, it's probably here.